Alright, what's going on, everybody? It is Rusty, back with another $30 budget deck tech. I bet you thought I forgot about these. It's just been a while, I've been a little distracted, but I do intend to keep making content. I love talking about these decks and letting you know what's going on. So quick, before we jump into it, a couple awesome things have happened. Today is the 26th of July. We had SCG Cincinnati earlier this month. I think it was a huge success. We got to meet a lot of cool folks. Hello, cool folks, if you're here. A lot of people joined the Discord. We've seen some new folks in our in-person events and at our spell table events. Our last spell table event fired with 14 people. That's really good. Have you guys ever tried to get someone to do something, even if it's fun? It's like pulling teeth getting Magic players to sign up for a fun event. So 16 is or 14 is really good. I'm really happy with that. We did actually get to pay out with Arena gems thanks to Matcherino. I don't really know where this come from. I think Matcherino is somehow associated with Wizards. So we got to pay out 4,200 gems to the top 4. If we get 16 people, the gem prize pool, I think, goes up to... It might be 10,000 gems. I don't really know. Additionally, if we get to 16 people, I personally am going to give a Fate Reforged Fat Pack to the winner, assuming you live in the United States or you pay for shipping. Because I don't want to ship it to, somewhere far away and pay for it. But guys, I'm really trying to give that away. Our next spell table event is going to be on August 3rd. That's in 8 days from recording this. Let's see how fast my turnaround time is to get this on YouTube. Other than that, so that'll be Thursday the 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. That'll be on Spell Table. Proxies are friendly. If you are new, you're just seeing this video, tune into the Discord. There's a link in the description, and we can get you well on your path to having a deck and being ready to compete, okay? Additionally, it's not locked in yet. I think we're going to try a Magic Online tournament as well. Spell Table's great, and Magic Online's kind of bad, but... weirdly enough, Magic Online is more accessible for some people, whether it's because they don't have real cards or a camera, or they're VTubers, so they don't have hands. There's a lot of reasons why MTGO makes some sense. Good thing about MTGO, it's pretty accessible. $5 for an account, I think. You have to upgrade your account with $5 or something, and then $5 in tickets gets you most decks in the format. If you need to check that, you can actually hit buy deck up here. And you can go card hoarder. This is a 57.57 ticks deck. Now I will say, this kind of segues really nicely into the really, really bad thing about Magic Online, and it's that some cards aren't there. It's really bad for me specifically because there's no Sailor's Bane, which is a card I like to play, and there's no Poxwalkers, which is the card I'm doing a deck tech on today because I love it. So I'm heartbroken. I'm malding, to use a term that I believe the kids use. Additionally, there are some weird price discrepancies. I believe I priced a Blue-Red Delver with Dazes one time, a Blue-Red Delver list with Dazes, and it came out to 70 tickets, which is obviously more than it would be in paper. I was looking at my Mind Splice apparatus list, and Memory Deluge is a 20 tickets card, so I'll probably just sub that out. I don't know, I don't want to pay 20 tickets for a card. So there's some weirdness. Haven't locked in a date yet for it. I think it's going to be the weekend of August 11th. Probably not literally the 11th. It'll probably be Saturday the 12th or Sunday the 13th. Keep your eyes and ears posted. We'll talk about that later. Other news... Our North Carolina chapter, that's what I'm calling our regional North Carolina folks, they actually fired a 13-person paper event the same day as SCG Cincinnati, so that scene is really getting up and moving. We have an FNM up at Columbus this Friday, which is 2 days from now. I think we're going to have 8 people probably. We'll see. I know I met some new Columbus folks at SCG Cincy, so I'm hoping to see some of you out there. And I think a New York and Atlanta chapter are starting to form. We'll see how that goes. But that's enough about the format. Time to jump into this $30 budget vintage deck tech. So, the name of the game here is Poxwalkers. If you've been in the Discord for any amount of time, it's become kind of a meme seeing me talk about this card. This card's crazy. I'll let you read it. I'm not a read text guy. You can pause the video. I'm not going to read any of the text. If you don't know what it is, hit pause, read it, and then we'll come back, okay? I'm going to do that as a general rule. So, Poxwalkers gets triggered by everything. Everything. It's crazy how easy it is to cast spells from somewhere other than your hand. Shardless Agent cascades and triggers Poxwalkers. I'm not saying I'm going to brew a Shardless Agent Poxwalkers deck. I'm just saying I could. So, upside on this card, it's a recursive threat, 3 power, nothing to sneeze at, death touch, it trades with anything, right? Pretty good. Downside, you're going through the graveyard, so you're a little bit vulnerable in that way, and it does enter tap, so blocking is slow. We're looking to leverage this card by spending $11 of our budget on Gravecrawlers. The very obvious synergy there is that Poxwalker itself is a zombie, so if you have one Poxwalker, so if you have a Gravecrawler and like 2 Poxwalkers, for instance, and a sack outlet, you can sack Poxwalker number 1, Gravecrawler, and then you have Poxwalker number 2 in play, so you pay a single black, you recast the Gravecrawler, because you have a Poxwalker in play, you get back the Poxwalker you sacked, and with something like Goblin Bombardment, which is our other largest money investment, it turns it into, single black to shock. Or I guess really it's a fire, half a fire ice, because it's split, right? There were multiple game states, I'll talk about that later, but there were multiple game states where I was paying single black and I was doing 3 damage to whatever I want. That kills your opponent very, very fast. So we are a zombie tribal deck. This is a Zombardment deck. I think this is the best, if not the only way to do it in this format, and I personally think Goblin Bombardment has been criminally underplayed. I don't think I've ever seen anyone register it, because it just doesn't look that good when you're doing it fairly. You can register like Unlucky Witness, which also, again, synergizes with Poxwalkers. I just have never thought it was that good. So we're leveraging a Goblins package. That means Gravecrawler and Poxwalkers. Putrid Goblin, it looks a little boring, but it's a pretty strong role player, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. It's nice that, if you get board wiped when you have like Gravecrawler, Poxwalkers, Putrid Goblin, your Putrid Goblin's going to come back, which lets you cast the Gravecrawler, which lets you rebuy the Poxwalkers. So you turn something like a Supreme Verdict into just a very, very minor setback. Putrid Goblin's a nice bit of protection. It also synergizes well with like our Village Rites, where we want to sack our Cabal Therapies. So it does a good job there. Undead Augur, I'm not sure about 4 copies of it. I feel confident about more than 0 copies. It might be 2 or 3, but I'm testing 4 for now. It turns, your Poxwalkers, your Gravecrawlers, and your Goblin Bombardments into a draw engine. You do lose some life, so maybe a bit of downside. Luris, this is a last-minute ad. I'm kind of take it or leave it on Luris. I'd probably cut it going forward, but if you cast something via Luris, it does trigger Poxwalkers. Now let's talk about triggering Poxwalkers. Cabal Therapy, awesome card. I truly think this is the best discard spell in the format. It does obviously ask a little bit of you in deck building, but it's much stronger than it looks. It's very rewarding for thinking through your lines, and it's just a powerful card. They synergize well in multiples. I don't mind playing a couple Inquisitions or even like a Gataxian Probe if you have the budget for it, to help inform your blind therapies, but Therapy is a very good card. Fun little trick, if you flash it back by sacrificing a Poxwalker, believe it or not, the Poxwalker that you sacrificed comes back. I know that seems weird, but it basically comes down to the fact that you sacrifice a creature as a cost to put the spell on the stack, I think. And then once you're done paying the cost, that's when you officially cast the spell, and at that point the Poxwalker's already in your graveyard. Judges can probably explain that better than me. It involves layers or numbers or rules or something. I don't know, I'm an idiot, so don't worry about it. I do know that it works because if you flashback Cabal Therapy by sacrificing a Young Pyromancer, you don't get the 1/1 trigger from the Young Pyromancer. And the way I see it, either Young Pyromancer or Poxwalkers has to trigger when you sacrifice it to a Cabal Therapy, and I know Young Pyro doesn't, so Poxwalkers must. It's a nice little trick. Came up, I did it a few times. Faithless Looting, clearly a strong card. 4 seemed high at first, but I gotta be honest, I actually wanted to draw more copies of this. I never felt bad to draw. You usually use the first cast to Ben your Gravecrawlers and your Poxwalkers, and believe it or not, the flashback triggers Poxwalkers. 3 mana for a Faithless Looting doesn't look so good, but when you're getting back 1 or 2 Poxwalkers, it starts to look a lot better. Inquisition, just fine interaction. I don't want to play him to Turok in my Cabal Therapy deck if I can afford it. If I'm playing additional discard spells, I want them to be ones that let me look at the opponent's hand. So it could be Dreams of Steel and Oil or Duress. It really just depends on your metagame. I'm kind of just hedging in the main board with Inquisitions. I could see that number needing to go up. 3 Lightning Bolt, not 4. It's because I'm a coward, I guess. I just thought with Goblin Bombardment I would kind of be policing small creature decks, so I didn't need all the Lightning Bolts. I will say, I'm thinking about swapping these to Fiery Tempers and going a little bit more in on discard. We'll talk about that in a bit. Village Rites, Faithless Salvaging, both strong cards. I did a 2-2 split because I wasn't sure which one I was more interested in playing. Salvaging is obviously not card advantage in the same way Village Rites is. You're not actually getting more cards, but if you're hellbent, it does go up a card for you, and importantly enough, it discards Poxwalkers, and the rebound, say it with me, it triggers Poxwalkers. That's what I mean when I say that just everything triggers Poxwalkers. There's a million ways to trigger this card, whether you're using Unlucky Witness, or you're using Ren's Resolve, you're flashing back a Think Twice, your Shardless Agent to Cascade. There's just a ton of possibility here. Another card to be aware of, and I probably shouldn't interrupt my deck tech, it's a card from 40k Commander. It's called The Lost and the Damned. The card is free. It's a blue-red enchantment, and it's essentially Poxwalkers, except a land also triggers it. So if you fetch with it in play, or you harrow with it in play, you get 3/3 tokens. I have looked at building a blue-red Poxwalkers list that doesn't ever cast Poxwalkers. It just plays a bunch of Faithless Looting, The Lost and the Damned, cards like Otherworldly Gaze, maybe even Arclight Phoenix or Demi-Lich. If you're interested in Poxwalkers, definitely consider giving this a go. I also think this card's just strong. I don't even mind playing this in Temur Wilderness Reclamation with Harrows and Think Twices. That actually sounds fine to me. It's probably fine with Expressive Iteration. There's just a lot going on, so consider this card if you're looking to Poxwalk. I'm not saying it's good, it's worth considering. So Salvaging is good because it triggers Poxwalkers and it discards it. Going forward, I think I'm on 4 Faithless Salvaging, no Village Rites. I just really always wanted to draw more copies of Faithless Looting. I had Poxwalkers in hand sometimes. There was one time where my hand was 3 Poxwalkers, 2 Gravecrawlers, and it's I just want a discard outlet. It's not very efficient to hardcast the Poxwalkers. You really want to be getting them back more cheaply. Salvaging is a good way to do that. With that in mind, I could see going to 4 Fiery Tempers, no Lightning Bolts. The weird thing about Fiery Temper, obviously, is that you can't just cast it for 1 mana without a little bit of setup, but the upside is that if you discard it to a Faithless Looting or a Faithless Salvage, you're effectively +1 card, because you're getting the Lightning Bolt effect and you're discarding it. And, guess what? Madness triggers Poxwalkers, because when you Madness a card, you discard it, you move it into exile, and then you cast it by paying its Madness cost. What does that mean? That means that if you want to, you can put Poxwalkers into a Basking Root Walla, Blazing Root Walla, Vengevine style deck. People have tried a Burning Inquiry style decks before, and I think Poxwalkers actually fits into that nicely. It's a pretty good discard, obviously, and then if you discard Poxwalkers and one of the Root Wallas, you then cast the Root Walla from exile, and you trigger the Poxwalkers. Neat little trick. So I'm considering swapping these to Fiery Tempers. I would probably try that for FNM on Friday night, but it's a store that doesn't like proxies very much, and I don't think I own 4 Fiery Tempers. Goblin Bombardment, kind of the name of the game. Everything you're doing is okay until you get a Goblin Bombardment, and then everything's kind of messed up. It makes Undead Augur sack really well. It makes the Gravecrawler Poxwalker thing obviously nuts. It just really supercharges the deck. Additionally, it goes infinite with Putrid Goblin, Goblin Bombardment, and Thran Vigil. Thran Vigil is a card we've looked at in the Budget Vintage Discord pretty regularly. I don't think anyone's ever truly registered it, but it does allow you to do persist combos. You could do a Skirk Prospector and a Murderous Redcap with Thran Vigil if you wanted to. I've never registered it before because Thran Vigil's kind of bad. It's not bad, but it's not good, right? And the combo's okay. It's a little easy to disrupt. But the reason I'm okay playing it in this deck is because I really want to be playing Goblin Bombardment. And I kind of want to play Putrid Goblin, even without the combo, right? It's just good to sacrifice. It's like I talked about, it's a zombie for recasting through Gravecrawler, blah, blah, blah. But when you add in the fact that you have a combo to assemble, I think everything starts to look really good. We're going to be on 4 Faithless Looting, 4 Faithless Salvaging, so we see a ton of cards. So I think we can actually assemble it. I think I assembled it twice in my matches. It's pretty good. Sideboard, the sideboard feels a little half-cooked. Actually, let me talk about the lands first. I'm going down on Smoldering Marshes. They come in tapped so often, and it's annoying. Foreboding Ruins is obviously incredible. I realize I'm playing 21 lands in this deck, and I was playing 20 in my red-black Lurrus list. That doesn't seem right to me. I think this is probably a 20-land deck, and Lurrus is probably 21. But I gotta be honest, I'm pretty bad at choosing the right number of lands for a deck. I don't know why. I just missed that part of Magic education. Sideboard, it's probably not right. Let's start at the bottom. Necromancer's Stockpile. This card, I think, is actually pretty powerful. It's obviously kind of an anti-control card. It's strong. If 2 mana is looting and making a 2/2 at instant speed while staying card neutral, that's pretty good. You're also bending your zombies, so I wanted to board this in for kind of the control matchup. There's only one copy because I think we're actually pretty good against control already. Just having so many recursive threats. If they don't have static graveyard hate like Weathered Runestone, like if they only have Tormod's Crypts and Soulguide Lanterns, I think we're pretty favored. Obviously, 2 Abrades. I'm scared of Weathered Runestone. I'm not really super scared of Tormod's Crypt, although maybe I should be. I think I can play through a couple Crypts usually. Soulguide's a little harder. Sometimes I think I want like 2 copies of Abrade and 2 copies of You Find Some Prisoners, in case I ever play against a control deck that doesn't have creatures that I want to kill. Maybe I want to have like the alternate mode on You Find Some Prisoners when the removal doesn't matter. I just don't think that comes up as much, so I'm kind of keeping that card in my back pocket, but I suspect I'll register Abrade more often. My graveyard hate of choice is Rotten Reunion. Maybe these should just be Soulguide Lanterns, but come on. It makes zombies, and it's got flashback. That's sick. I'm going to play this card. 3 Duresses. I was a little scared. Our meta's been trending a little bit unfair. We have a Doomsday player now. People are just talking about more unfair decks, so I wanted to have Duresses. Although, main board, you're okay against unfair decks. Dreams of Steel and Oil, I wanted mostly for initiative, because it's a good way to take creatures, and you can swap Inquisitions out if you're worried about Seasoned Dungeoneer. Additionally, Changeling Outcast is a nod to initiative. It's my special sauce. It's my secret recipe. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's worth it. It's a zombie, and it takes the initiative, okay? Maybe that's enough. I don't mind. I've been talking about putting Spectral Sailor in my blue sideboards to fight for the initiative. It's just so important to not give them their upkeep triggers. I don't know if like 4 Changeling Outcasts is where you want to be. We'll talk about my initiative matchup at the end. Bone Shards, it's for big creatures. I brought it in against initiative as well. That's the deck. What do I have down here in considering? Undead Butler. Okay, cool, great. Good job, Rusty. There's a lot of directions you could go. Fundamentally, it's a red-black deck. It's very different from the Lurrus deck I've played before, even though there's a Lurrus in it. I think it's good. I went 2-1. We only did 3 rounds, even though we had 10 people. We were all kind of sleepy, and we had an undefeated, so we all just called it. The deck felt great. No, it didn't feel great. That's not true. It felt like it has a lot of potential. This current version felt clunky. Like I said, I think get the Lurruses out, get the Village Rites out, go down 1 land, go up Faithless Looting. I could see going more in on the combo. I could see trying to get 4 Bombardments, 3 Vigils in here, and just like combo people out more. That could be good. Sideboard could definitely be better. Overall, the deck felt good. I was happy with it. I would play it again. I actually will play it again on Friday night, so I'll let you guys know how that goes. I'm going to work on this for a while. It's been fun. So matchups, unfortunately, I didn't... when I posted these decks in Discord and our tournament results, I didn't copy them over to my own Moxfield account like I usually do to archive them. I just posted the link. So Jake has changed his mono blue 12 post list a lot, but you'll get the idea. It is Cloud Post, Glimmer Post, Thespian Stage, make a lot of mana, and then utilize that to cast big creatures. He was on a lot more Steel Hellkites. He was on no Thought-Knot Seers. He was on a lot more cantrips, a lot less counterspells when we played. He did have the whelming waves, which actually slowed me down a lot. Like I talked about when I was talking about Putrid Goblin and his interaction with like board wipes, I would rather you kill my board than put it back in my hand, because if I don't have a discard spell, this is how I ended up with 3 Poxwalkers and 2 Gravecrawlers in my hand. It was like barf. Energy Refractor is a new add, so this is pretty different, but the concept is there. There just wasn't a ton of interaction. He just spent a lot of time cantripping. I think game 1 he was able to get to a Hullbreaker Horror, but I had enough pressure. I think I had like 2 or 3 Poxwalkers and a couple 2/2s or a couple Gravecrawlers maybe. I was able to just attack with the team, and weirdly I drew double Abrade, so he blocked a 2/2, I double Abraded it for 6, and he was tapped out of blue mana actually, which is why we see the Energy Refractors now. Energy Refractor, it's weird. Obviously it filters less efficiently than Prophetic Prism, costing 2 mana instead of 1, but you can use it multiple times in a turn, so you can get double blue off of it. I actually like this addition a lot. I think it makes sense. Game 2, I think I stripped his hand pretty hard, and then eventually I comboed off. He was also a little light. I think he may have had the Soul Guide Lanterns, but he was a little light on coverage for the graveyard, so just not the right matchup, and he's still developing Blue Post. I like to think that there's some... I like to think there's something here. I really want Cloud Post and Glimmer Post to be playable. I lost some sleep last night thinking about Green Post again. I'm not happy about it, but I was thinking about it. There's got to be something here. Round 2, I played against Roby on an old version of my Mind Splice deck. Notably, he's on the Hullbreaker Horror plus Hullbreacher Memory Plan, and the sideboard's a little bit less developed, I would say. Notably, he was missing 1 copy of Extirpate that I now sideboard as a Mystical Teachings target. Extirpate obviously would have been very good against my Poxwalkers plan. I think that there are configurations of this Mind Splice list that can definitely beat the Poxwalkers deck. But just having so many recursive threats was really good for me. It kind of made a lot of his removal, because this list is very anti-creature focused right now. It's actually pretty soft to combo decks. If you count the counter spells, there's not that many. So it's definitely designed to beat the heck out of creature decks. Unfortunately, not so much the recursive decks. Sorry, it's been a few days. Work's been busy. I don't remember my matches too well. I do know that an Extirpate probably would have won him at least game 2, if not game 1. I was able to combo game 2, but really I didn't need it. I think I had lethal in attacks as well. Weird to play against Hullbreaker Horrors twice in a row. All in all, I think Roby played well. I think it was just, the deck wasn't in the right configuration to beat Poxwalkers. So moving to round 3, I played against Josh. He was 2-0 and eventually went 3-0, spoilers, with Black-White Initiative. The deck's just very, very good. It's just a very good deck. It's probably tier 1. It is tier 1. It's probably tier 0. White Plume Adventure is just a big gosh darn deal in this format. It's so cheap right now. It's such an easy expenditure of mana, and then you back it up with good interaction. I feel like Poxwalkers should be able to compete in this matchup if my list was a little bit more tuned and I had a better idea of my keepable hands. But at the same time, he has a ton of hate for me, main and side. Game 1, I kept a 3-lander on the draw, and he hemmed me on turn 2, and he took my 2 other lands, and I didn't have a Faithless Looting, and I didn't see another land, and I died. That's what happens when you play Hem to Turok sometimes. Sometimes Hem to Turok takes your opponent's 2 lands, and the game ends. That's whatever. It's Hem to Turok. Game 2, I had decent game. I fought through a few Graveyard Trespassers, which really do not feel good to Bone Splinters, because you go down so many cards. I felt like I had some game, and I felt like I was kind of like stabilizing. I was kind of grappling for the Monarch a little bit. I had Thran Vigil, 2 Poxwalkers, and a Gravecrawler, which is a pretty good situation. I also had a Goblin Bombardment, which should be a slam dunk, but believe it or not, Anointed Peacekeeper actually can name Goblin Bombardment, and that really fucks me up. You can't pay 2 mana for your Goblin Bombardments. That's just not good. So between that and the Graveyard Trespassers gobbling up my stuff, Swords on Poxwalkers is good. Then in the sideboard, there was 3 Plague Engineers, 1 Engineered Plague. It was just an availability thing. He didn't have access to another Plague Engineer. Then Soul Guide Lanterns and Containment Priests. Game 2, we were grappling, and then he triggered Throne of the Dead 3 from Initiative, and he flipped into a Plague Engineer, and it just sent me straight to jail. Probably he could have flipped into any of his creatures. He probably could have flipped into a 1/1 with no text, and Throne of the Dead 3, putting 3+1/+1 counters on it would have finished me off. But Plague Engineer, tough matchup. I think that if my configuration were a little bit better, and if my deck were a little better, if it were a little bit more tuned, and his configuration were a little bit less hateful, like he was just kind of covering other decks, I think there's a chance. But as it is, it was hard. It was hard and it felt bad. I was hopeful that Poxwalkers could be the answer to some of this initiative stuff that's happening. I don't know. I think you can get the win rate above 30%. I'm not sure you can get it above 40%. I think we had some time left in the round and we played boarded games. I think we played 6 or 7 and I lost all of them. So if you're looking to hate out initiative, Poxwalkers may not be the answer. But overall, I was super happy with how the deck played. I'm glad someone finally registered Goblin Bombardment. This has always been a favorite card of mine. I really like to play it. It's fun to play a card that I think it sees a little bit of true vintage play, maybe in Bazaar decks, maybe Legacy Dredge, although it's not on Moto, right? So it can't really see that much play because who's going to go to a Legacy event and play Poxwalkers, right? With that in mind, I did hear rumors that Daybreak is adding some of the Warhammer cards. Maybe they're adding all of them. Maybe we get Poxwalkers soon. That would be great. But if you like a red-black sacrifice style deck, because this is a very different deck from like a red-black Lurrus, like red-black rock kind of deck, I think this is a viable deck. Like I said, I went 2-1 with it. My matchups were pretty favorable until the end, but I think that you have game against most of the decks in the format. You're a deck that leverages Cabal Therapy really well, has grinding game, and has a decent combo. How bad can you really be? I will say you're a little bit vulnerable to, sideboard hate, engineered plagues, plague engineers, obviously, graveyard hate, but again, I'm not that scared of a single Tormod script. Maybe that's wrong, but I feel like we can play through that. You just have to be a little bit conservative with how many Poxwalkers you put into your graveyard at a time. So overall, this deck I would say was a success. I was happy to play it. I'll get some more data on Friday. If you're just watching this video, just tuning in, join the Discord. We are fast approaching 300 members. We got a huge boost from SCG Columbus. I think we got like 40 new members in the past week and a half. So yeah, really, thanks to everyone who joined. I'm glad to have you guys here. I would love seeing this format grow. I really do think this format, has staying power, and people seem to be really interested in it. There's plenty more room to brew. Like I said, Spell Table Tournament on August let me double check so I don't lie, Thursday, August the 3rd. I believe that's already posted in the Discord. It is proxy friendly. You just have to have a webcam spell table set up. That'll be streamed on Twitch with my buddy Scuffle, twitch.tv/Scuffle Deluxe. I'll link that as well potentially. And then we'll have a Moto tournament, potentially the weekend of the 11th. My dad is moving soon, so I'm being conscripted into helping a lot on the weekends, which I really don't mind. It just makes it hard to schedule out weekend Magic events. SCG Columbus is coming up. That is September 1st through 4th, I believe, attached to Labor Day weekend. We're planning to show up just like we did in SCG Cincinnati. Star City's been really cool. They haven't minded us just setting up and introducing people to the format. We'll be setting up at a table with these playmats around. We'll have a poster. We'll have decks to borrow. We'll give you a pack for your first match win. And that's all I got, guys. I think I might have kept this under a half hour, which is really impressive for me. Going to try to get back in the swing of making some content. We may be able to grab some VODs from the stream tournament the other day and kind of work on rejuvenating this YouTube. So I hate to be that guy who asks, but please do, toss some likes, comments, subscribes, all that stuff in here. I think the YouTube is a pretty good resource for growing this format, and I gotta be honest, guys, I didn't set out to make a YouTube channel. I didn't really set out to be a content guy. I just love this format, and YouTube is a way to spread the word about the format. So you honestly, you don't even really have to like the content or like me to make it worthwhile to like and subscribe. Just drop that down there if you love $30 budget vintage. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in, guys and gals.